stay out of the way.
The film opens with Greta, a critic of the American government, particularly in the intelligence sector, meeting a mysterious man who claims to have evidence of CIA corruption. Greta appears delighted by the photos and files he presents until she realizes the man has other intentions. The news of Greta's death sparked a wave of protests in Greece because there had already been 3 American intelligence critics who were allegedly killed by the CIA in their country. The Greek foreign minister named Kostas even made a statement that America had killed its citizens, so a CIA agent named Kate was assigned to find the mastermind behind Greta's murder. After spending the whole day reviewing CCTV footage, she managed to find the perpetrator, and as soon as she realized who it was, Kate panicked and immediately went to see her boss. The man was named Radek, a former CIA agent who was supposed to have been declared dead 18 months earlier. The question was how he had survived and what the motive behind his murder was. Therefore, Kate and her superior met with a man named Steve, who worked as a stonemason but was also a former renowned agent. O'Malley, Steve's former boss, asked him and Kate to go to Greece to capture Radek, as he's likely planning something very dangerous by collaborating with the Russian mafia. However, Steve immediately refuses the order, as he's retired and no longer wants to be involved in another secret mission. Actually, one of the reasons Steve was assigned was because he was the one sent to kill Radek 18 months ago. That night when Steve finished with his work, he remembered his past where he and Radek used to be friends, and even he was very close to Radek's family. As soon as he finished reminiscing about the past, suddenly he was surrounded by some assassins. Steve, who had been shot, immediately treated his wound and tried to escape. Then 2 people appeared and tried to kill him, but this is where we see Steve's true abilities, because even without using a firearm, he was able to slaughter the 2 enemies who were trying to kill him. It turned out that another enemy had appeared later, and a fierce battle ensued. In the middle of the fight, the 2 of them then fell into a makeshift apartment elevator, and before dying, his enemy had said, if Radek left a greeting for Steve. As a result of last night's event, Steve decided to accept the mission assigned to him. That morning, the 2 of them departed in a military aircraft, and throughout the journey, Steve reminded Kate not to interfere with him during the mission. During the trip, Kate also opened an old file related to Radek's assassination mission, which stated that Steve had successfully killed Radek, but Radek's body was not found because it had fallen into the sea. Attached were also photos of the bodies of Radek's child and wife, who were found covered in blood. In short, upon arriving in Greece, Steve secretly directed his journey to visit his old friend named Patricio. For your information, before resigning from the CIA, Steve had been assigned to Greece for a long time, so he knew the country very well. He visited Patricio to obtain weapons, new identities, and vehicles for their cover, and Patricio was known for being able to provide everything agents needed. Although Kate initially disagreed because it was against protocol, she finally agreed with Steve in order to catch Radek. After a few hours of driving, they arrived in Thessaloniki. They were both disguised as lovers for this mission, and upon arriving at the hotel, Steve kindly told Kate to take a shower and rest for a while before they moved on to their next destination. But it turned out to be a ploy to sneak out. From there, he then went to church to leave the cell phone given by Kate so that it could not be traced, and then secretly went to a party to meet his old friend, who was also a CIA agent named Ty. Steve asked for information on the location of a mafia member who used to be Radek's main informant during his duties, because he was sure that until now they still interacted with each other and helped Radek in his criminal activities. As a close friend for a long time, Ty immediately gave Steve the information he wanted. That night, without wasting time, he went directly to a club owned by Radek's former informant named Sten. But to get information about Radek's whereabouts from Sten would not be easy. He will not open his mouth, especially now that he has become a millionaire and has many bodyguards. And therefore, Steve has no other choice but to use violence. Sten's bodyguards kept coming, and Steve very agilely managed to beat them one by one with his bare hands. However, their numbers were endless, so he chose to run away, and luckily Kate came to offer him a ride just in time. Being left at the hotel made Kate very angry, and along the way she also demanded an explanation of what actually caused Radek, who was previously a CIA agent, to become a CIA target. Steve then explained that Radek had previously been undercover as an intermediary for the Russian and Greek mafia, but his cover was blown and his family was killed. Since then on, he blindly kills the mafia or the Russians who are in Greece, and finally Steve is sent to kill him. At the same time, Ty received an email containing video evidence of CIA conspiracies in various countries, and if the CIA did not want the video to be spread to various media outlets, Radek demanded a ransom of $100 million in Bitcoin. The story then returns to Steve and Kate, who successfully tracked down Sten's residence. When the house was empty, the two of them managed to get inside to look for additional clues. As a skilled stonemason, Steve noticed something odd about the fireplace in the house. And when he dismantled it, he found items belonging to the critics who had been killed by Radek. Inside, there was also a newspaper featuring another critic who would likely be the next target. But just then, one of Sten's subordinates entered the house, and luckily the two of them managed to hide. But unfortunately, Kate suddenly sneezed and gave away their cover. Kate actually had the chance to shoot her enemy, but froze because she was nervous, and understandably so, since she had never been in the field before. And as a result, she was also injured in this action. Steve himself did not expect his enemy to be so tough, but in the end, he was still able to finish him off brutally. In short, the next day, they managed to track down their next target, who was seen relaxing in a cafe. Steve enlisted Patricio's help in this mission. Meanwhile, he and Kate tried to locate Radek in the area, and shortly afterwards, Steve received a call from Radek. They both talked to each other, and here it is told that 18 months ago, Steve did not kill Radek because Radek was his friend, or rather, he faked his death, but he did not expect Radek to reappear to take revenge on the CIA. Radek's main reason for wanting to destroy the CIA's reputation is that his cover was blown in the past due to the actions of the agency's own top brass. By the way, while on the phone, Steve tried to locate Radek, who should have been nearby, but they were tricked.
Stay out of the way.
Steve managed to knock Radek off his motorcycle, but he still managed to escape. But at least they managed to find a tablet, which was found on the back seat of his motorbike. As a result of this incident, Kate was furious because Steve had acted recklessly, but there was something else they needed to discuss. After killing his target, Radek had thrown away a photo, and the person in the photo was one of the CIA's black targets, which meant that Radek could leak all the data to the media and cause the destruction of American diplomacy. The question was, where did he get it?
Don't tell him.
You really are paranoid, aren't you?
From there, Steve stopped by to see Ty, who turned out to be his former lover. Even before retiring, Steve had asked her to run away with him, but Ty refused because she felt she had devoted her entire life to her country. By the way, Steve then mentioned Radek's earlier statement that the CIA itself had leaked Radek's cover to the mafia. And it turned out to be true because Ty, before becoming the head of the CIA station in Greece, had been informed of this information. The CIA argued that it was a necessary action because Radek had previously refused the assignment given to him. We are taken through a flashback to explain the assignment that led to Radek's betrayal by the CIA. At the time, Radek's performance was excellent, and the CIA's top brass then gave him a promotion and asked him to stop his cover. He was also given a new assignment assassinating a Greek politician. So far, Radek had only eliminated people who were clearly criminals, such as the mafia and gangsters. Therefore, when asked to assassinate the politician, he refused. To encourage him to continue his assignment, the CIA revealed his identity to the mafia, which ultimately led to the murder of his wife and child. Upon returning to the hotel, Steve is held at gunpoint by Kate, who has learned that Radek called Steve the previous day at the location. She now suspects that the two of them were working together and does not rule out the possibility that Steve never completed the mission to kill Radek from the start.
You never killed him.
Steve himself only smiles when it is discovered that he never actually killed Radek, but he also explained in detail why Radek was innocent in the past. In short, that night they went to Patricio's warehouse to find out about the contents of the tablet hard drive they had managed to take from Radek yesterday. But strangely, Patricio had not answered any of their calls. Even his beloved dog was left outside the building. And once they went inside, they discovered Patricio was dead, and his body had been booby-trapped a bomb that Steve fortunately spotted early on. It didn't stop there, as Patricio's body turned out to be a mere decoy, as Sten and dozens of his subordinates soon arrived to kill them both. A firefight ensued with Kate and Steve spreading out to eliminate their enemies one by one. In the end, Steve managed to defeat most of the enemies pursuing him, while Kate, who had been attacking while hiding in a train car, was captured by the enemy. Steve was finally forced to surrender, or Kate would be killed. At the end of the farewell, Kate apologized for her carelessness, but Steve said everything would be fine. And suddenly, it turns out that Steve managed to use the bomb on Patricio's body as a way out of the situation. And Kate, who had been very worried, now realizes that Steve is no ordinary ex-agent. Along the way, they also received news that the CIA has agreed to pay Radek's requested $100 million. So not long after O'Malley arrived at the CIA office in Greece to inform them that Radek had a condition for the money transaction he requested, which was that he wanted Kate to be sent to deliver the hard drive containing the bitcoins that were the subject of the transaction. Of course, upon hearing this decision, Steve protested because he knew full well that Kate would be walking into a trap, but his protest was met with his removal from the mission.
And that's saying something.
Without wasting any time, Kate boarded the train to the given location, and upon arriving there, she found a cell phone that showed the next location, which led to a basement room in a cafe. Fortunately, Steve suddenly reappeared, and he managed to follow Kate using a tracking device he had secretly installed. The two then switch roles with Steve entering a room and finding a laptop, where when the hard drive containing the bitcoins is plugged in, Radek immediately activates a video call stating he had anticipated Steve's arrival. The reason their friendship was destroyed was because Steve failed to protect Radek's family, and now as a final act of revenge, Radek says he will kill the Greek foreign minister. Of course, if that happened, the CIA would be blamed entirely, and it would lead to war between countries.
Seeing them soon.
It turned out that a bomb had been planted under the table, and in a short time, Steve tried to find a way to minimize the effects of the explosion. And finally, Radek was seen getting into a van and trying to escape from the scene. He tried to run Steve over, but failed. Luckily, at the same time, Kate arrived in a car and a chase ensued. In the end, after taking a shortcut, Steve managed to break through the wall and immediately hit Radek's car, causing it to bounce. They were all quite badly injured in this accident, but Radek still managed to escape from the scene. However, because he already knew who would be his final target, Steve immediately went to where the Greek foreign minister was at that moment. In the midst of the crowd, Steve tried to find the whereabouts of his former friend, who would surely soon kill Costas. Radek was seen on stage after successfully disguising himself as a member of the media, and because he didn't want to waste time, Steve took a hammer and destroyed the footing. Before killing Radek, Steve apologized for failing to protect Radek's family in the past, and then fired the shot that ended the entire mission. But because he was considered a threat, Steve was also shot by the local police. When he woke up in the hospital, Kate and O'Malley were there, and they said that even though Radek was caught, the money he stole disappeared without a trace. O'Malley then specifically thanked Steve, and when it was just the two of them in the room, Kate said that O'Malley must have the stolen money. They suspected that O'Malley was the CIA's insider who secretly helped Radek's crimes. A few days later, Steve sneaks into Ty's apartment and finds her getting ready to leave town for a vacation. Steve was actually there to meet his ex-girlfriend, but he suddenly finds a vinyl record that should have belonged to Radek. It's there that he realizes that the insider who betrayed the CIA is his ex-girlfriend. She sold the CIA information for the ransom money yesterday.
You're not here for me.
I'm not the same person anymore.
At the same time, several hired assassins reappeared to kill Steve. Before they managed to enter the apartment, Steve opened a cassette box containing explosives that he had long stored in Ty's apartment. He then put the explosives in the oven, and finally, the explosion destroyed all the enemies chasing him, but unfortunately, Steve, who was injured from falling from a height, was almost killed by his ex-girlfriend who tried to run him over with her car. Luckily, Kate managed to arrive at the scene just in time and saved him. Sometime later, Kate was called in to see her boss. Her performance yesterday was praised, and she was promoted to the upper floor. But instead of being happy, Kate chose to resign. As a result of yesterday's events, she learned a lot from Steve and realized that the institution she worked for was involved in many dirty deeds such as the Radek case.
Bye.
Meanwhile, Steve is now back to his job as a bricklayer, and with a cool ending, the film comes to a close.